So she keeps getting fired, but nothing is like reported to the authorities. So she's just
I would imagine there's not like a system in place to like report medical malpractice or, stuff like that at this point in time. So she's just like, woohoo, on to the next.
Exactly. So there's no hospitals that want to take her. Thank goodness. But she's like, no big deal. I'll just start my own private nursing practice.
Home health care. So it begins.
Healthcare horrors. Murder.
Holy snow cone.
Does it taste good?
Yeah, it tastes really good.
Oh.
It is time for another episode of Healthcare Horrors. I am Ashley, a brand specialist.
And I'm Alicia, a recruiter.
That's Dolan.
Producer Dolan.
Very fancy.
Alicia brought us treats today. Do you want to share with the class what you brought?
So I brought us these Alani Nu seltzers. Saw them at Target, my favorite store.
So this is Healthcare Horrors, a Beer with Atlas takeover.
Ah, a seltzer with...
A seltzer with murder.
Murder.
Let's see. I got the mimosa.
I haven't tried them before, so I figured we could all try them together.
Now I feel like you can probably hear the sound of swallowing liquid. It's gross.
You're welcome.
Hawaiian shaved ice is good.
The frozen lemonade is good. Not overpowering at all. They're quote-unquote healthy.
Oh, healthy that gets you drunk.
Yes.
Nice. I mean, if you think about it, all alcoholic drinks are just different forms of vegetables and grains.
Well, there's only 1 gram of sugar, so if you don't want something super sweet, this is where it's at.
Yeah.
It is always interesting when there's a nutrition fact label on alcohol. So there's 100 calories per can.
People have fitness goals, Ashley.
It's true.
But they still want to get crunk,
They still
right?
want to get crunk.
I'm glad there's a nutrition label. There should always be a nutrition label.
I love it.
How many calories are in a PBR?
Right?
No, there's not.
There's no law on nutrition
No,
label?
I mean, there's no nutrition label like on a beer can.
Oh.
Yeah, I've looked.
Is there one on a box?
I think there's one on the box.
I guess I've never looked.
It has to be.
I'll have to check the box.
They're like, these people drinking this Busch Light aren't worried about the calories and the carbs and the sugar.
I mean, yeah.
Are you?
No.
I mean, I've seen people really throw them back, and I don't think anyone's ever been like, man, I wonder how many carbs are in this Busch Light.
Mm-hmm. These are pretty good. I dig it. Good job, Target. Good find, Alicia.
Woo, woo.
Yeah, so who is Alani?
Okay, it's Katie Hearn. She's a fitness clothing brand. She does fitness stuff. I don't know. I follow her on Instagram.
Oh, cool.
Katie Hearn. She's
Sponsor
super cute.
us.
I know, right? Please sponsor us, Katie Hearn.
Sponsor us. We're drinking your
Also,
seltzers.
I want your leggings.
Send some leggings.
All right. So the last few episodes we talked about some doctors. I think it's time we get into some nurses.
Some very bad nurses.
Well, I was going to say naughty nurses, but
Naughty
that can just be interpreted wrong.
I mean, Halloween is right around the corner, and
That's
people will be
true.
dressing up, and I'm sure somebody will be a very naughty nurse.
Oh, no.
Cringe.
You want to dive in?
Yep,
You want to
okay.
get started? Cool.
So we're going to start with Jane Toppin, a.k.a. Jolly Jane, also known as the Angel of Death. So, all right, I was reading about her, and honestly, I've heard of her, but I did some really weird stuff.
There's a lot. There's a lot about her.
There really is. Okay, so like most serial killers, she had an unstable childhood.
No.
But unlike most female serial killers, she did it for the sexual thrill.
Viewer, listener discretion is advised.
Well, I won't get into that. I'm going to let you get into that later.
Okay.
I skipped that. I was like, I'll let Ashley
I'll
reveal
talk about that.
Jane's problems.
So she is a hashtag naughty nurse.
Oh, man.
Oh, she is.
Here we
She
go.
Okay, so Jane Toppin was born on Honora Kelley. I don't
Yeah.
know how to say that.
Honora, because I think they also called her Nora for short.
Okay, so Honora Kelley, around 1857 in Boston, Massachusetts. She was the youngest of 4 girls in a poor Irish immigrant family. Her mother, Bridget, died of tuberculosis when she was only a year old, and then she was left with her father, Peter Kelley, who was a major alcoholic and also a tailor. And he lost his mind and was said to have sewn his eyelids shut.
Mm-hmm.
So, great family life.
Mm-hmm.
Her father, Peter Kelley, was also known as Kelley the Crack. And he tried to raise the girls, but he was suspected of abusing them. I know, I'm
I
just
just wanted to say crack one more time.
Kelley the Crack?
Crack.
Kelley the Crack. So, in 1863, Kelley, as in Peter Kelley, her dad, took 8-year-old Delia, which is one of her sisters, and then 6-year-old Honora, a.k.a. Jane, to an orphanage called the Boston Female Asylum in the city's South End. The orphanage placed the girls in respectable families when they turned 10. Delia supposedly became a prostitute and an alcoholic, so following in Daddy's footsteps. And another one of their sisters, Nellie, ended up in an insane asylum. So things are going well.
Yeah, so far Nora's the good child.
So far, she's really doing well. Honora became an indentured servant to Mrs. Anne C. Toppin of Lowell, Massachusetts. So yeah, she got adopted, but she's an indentured servant.
Mm-hmm.
Yay! That's what every adopted kid dreams of, right?
Yeah.
The Toppans passed her off as an Italian girl whose parents died at sea because of the stigma associated with Irish people at the time. Jane did well in school and had a lot of friends, but she got unattractively fat, which I don't know what that has to do with anything, but Murderpedia felt the need to mention it. And Honora believed that the Toppans' daughter, Elizabeth, even though Honora was adopted, she believed that Elizabeth was her real sister. And Mr. and Mrs. Toppin treated Elizabeth much better than they did Jane, causing Jane, or Honora, to become angry and resentful. And apparently she held on to that anger for a long, long time.
Yes.
Because eventually, I'm going to, spoiler alert, she kills Elizabeth and then tries to marry her husband.
Crazy.
Yeah, Jane's a nut job.
Yeah.
So they also said that Jane displayed earmarks of being a sociopath and saying that she was telling outrageous lies and that her father sailed around the world and that her sister married an English nobleman and that her brother was a decorated soldier from Gettysburg with Abraham Lincoln. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, she turned out to be quite the storyteller, compulsive liar, but I think that's why even at an early age everyone loved her because she had all these cool stories and was just awesome. But I guess she
charming.
Excelled at school and she was a good student and everything.
Serial killers and sociopaths often tend to be smart.
Mm-hmm. Charming, for
Charming
sure.
and smart. So they say that she had a complicated relationship with men. She got engaged shortly after graduating high school, only to be left at the altar. That would piss anybody off.
Yeah, I missed that part.
Yeah.
Oy.
Yep. So she's upset. She believed that no man could ever love her, and she aspired to become a nurse instead. So she eventually found another suitor, but he threw her out of his house when his family members mysteriously became ill in her presence.
Yes.
And yes, I'm very sure she killed his family. And then in 1885, Jane Toppin, a.k.a. Jolly Jane, began working as a nurse.
She just kind of spiraled downhill even as a teenager with the lying and everything. But she also kind of became a pyro as well.
What?
Yeah.
What's she setting on fire?
So I missed all of these suitors of hers.
And I missed the fire
and
part.
You missed the fire. Yeah, apparently she was a pyromaniac and she did get sexual pleasure from setting fires. I don't know what all she was setting on fire, But
What a fetish.
Yeah, as a teenager, I don't think it was anything too major.
Weird.
But yeah, so she does eventually become a nurse. Let me look through my notes here. I have written down that she was still a housekeeper for the Toppans at the age of 28. So she was still in the house until she enrolled in nursing, and she excelled in her studies. She obviously had good bedside manner because she like basically grew up as a maid for the Toppans.
She knew how to play the game.
Yeah. And throughout her nursing school, I guess she was obsessed with cadavers and autopsies. So there's all these red flags popping up.
Nothing would freak me out more. Even though, like, I always think about this, like, when people, you know, when you work in a morgue, and I'm like, what makes you want to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it. Maybe it's just the money. I'm sure they get paid well.
What if they didn't? Now I want to know the salary of a mortician.
Actually, I started taking classes.
Oh, no, it's Dolan.
Dolan.
I'm sorry. It's Dolan.
And then all of like the bone like notches and like the words were really hard for me. And then I'm like, screw this. I'm going to journalism.
So, wow, that was the difference between being a mortician and being here with us now.
Yep. Was
Hard words.
yeah, hard words.
Oh, man. So even through school, when patients, you know, she started taking care of patients that she liked, once those patients started getting better, she would purposely like make them sick again to keep them around a little longer. But she didn't quite start killing yet. She was just like, I want to keep you around. She kind of started experimenting with medications and people just to see, you know, how they would react to certain medications and doses. And she would alter prescribed dosages. She would withhold meds from patients, and then she would eventually overdose them.
She's a real scientist.
Yeah.
She's keeping notes.
I guess just experimenting. She must have been keeping notes because she did eventually find her favorite combination, which was atropine and morphine combined. So she would eventually give her patients morphine, which slows down your heart rate. And then she would give them mineral water that had atropine in it. And that...
Does it speed your heart rate back up?
Yeah. It's treated for pesticide poisoning.
Huh.
But it does increase your heart rate. Too much atropine can cause delirium and hallucinations. So the combination of both of those drugs is obviously life-threatening. They have complicating interactions between like your respiratory and cardiovascular systems. And they muddy toxicology reports.
The cause of death. So, like, you can't figure out.
Yeah.
Did she know this before? Is she just, like, learning this as she goes? And she's like, okay, these people are dying and people are confused now.
It's probably a bit of both. And maybe, like, you know, Harold Shipman, she can, like, use her status to the fullest and, you know, lie and be like, this is what happened or this is why they died. But really, it was her. I'm
not like big on having a ton of rules, but it's so good that we have so many more rules in place.
Yeah.
These days.
Yeah. So in 1887, she eventually tries to take her first victim, Amelia Finney. She gave her the morphine, and as she slipped in and out of a twilight state, Jane crawled into bed with her. So we're getting into a little bit of the sexual pleasure. She like wanted to cuddle her as she was, you know.
This is where it gets weird.
Dying a little bit.
Oh my God. She was, I just want to cuddle you. I know you're dying a little bit.
Yeah.
But man, this is just really what I need right now.
And in the podcast I was listening to, it said she like would open her eyelids so she could see the life slip out of her eyes.
What?
But Amelia didn't die. Because someone came in and interrupted this whole thing before Amelia could pass on. So Amelia lived, and I guess she just kind of thought it was a dream. She didn't really know it was real. So Jane slipped through the crack there. She got lucky.
No
I
one thought
guess.
it was weird that she was in bed with Amelia.
Maybe she jumped out just in time.
Maybe she was just like, oh, she's really sick, and so I'm just trying to be here to calm her.
Maybe.
Or, I don't know.
If you ever walked into a hospital or anywhere and you saw somebody like the caretaker, the nurse, cuddling your mom or your cousin or whoever it is, like you're not gonna be like,
That's weird.
That's a little odd.
Yeah, but at the same time,
you're just comforting her.
Like this is what year? When did this happen?
That was 1887.
Like
I feel like it still would have been really
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. So fast forward a little bit, there was no suspicion there. In 1889,
There was no suspicion there.
no
Okay.
suspicion from anybody.
Sure.
But Amelia lived, so good job, Amelia. Toppin began a position at the Massachusetts General Hospital, where she was eventually dismissed for being in like a medical cabinet or some room where there was a lot of medication, and she was not authorized to be in there, so they let her go. She returned to Cambridge, where she was eventually fired again for recklessly prescribing opiates. So she keeps getting fired, but nothing is like reported to the authorities. So she's just
I would imagine there's not like a system in place to like report medical malpractice or, stuff like that at this point in time. So
yeah,
she's just like, woohoo, on to the next.
Exactly. So there's no hospitals that want to take her. Thank goodness. But she's like, no big deal. I'll just start my own private nursing practice.
Home health care.
Yeah.
So it begins.
So there's higher wages. She can pick her victims /
Patients.
I have 1895. She poisoned her landlords she was living with. So she's
just getting real mad.
Yeah, she's starting her rampage. Well, I'm sure she already has started it, but she was living with this couple. She kind of just, I don't know. She never owned her own property, but we'll get to that later.
Did that also make her mad?
Probably.
I would imagine.
There was a lot of resentment. I mean, she didn't have a lot growing up, but she didn't, try and make a positive life for herself. She just had a lot of resentment.
I feel like there's so much anger here that
Yeah.
Like, where did Jolly Jane come from? Are we getting to that?
Well, they started calling her Jolly Jane because of her, quote, sunny disposition. Just like in school, she had all these cool stories.
Okay.
And then, even in the hospital.
So be really wary of overly happy people.
Yeah.
Jolly people. They should make you nervous.
Yes. She's now living with this couple. She's in her mid to upper 30s. Let's see. Yeah, they were in their 70s. She killed the husband first. Yeah, she killed the husband first, and then 2 years later, she killed the wife and basically, said that they had heart problems.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering,
Yeah.
like, what did the husband do? Did he like look at her the wrong way? Like, was her porridge too cold? Like, what's the deal?
I don't really know. I think she just wanted to kill people. I don't have a reason. Don't have the answer.
Fair enough.
Maybe she didn't even have the answer. She's just like,
You're a man.
Must kill.
Yeah.
Murder.
It's all about the murder. So she remembers her sister Elizabeth. So Elizabeth was always nice to her when they were kids. But
that's not her real sister. That's like her.
Right. Her adopted sister. Or she was, Jane was adopted into the family. But Elizabeth was nice to her. She wasn't, like a bratty stepsister or anything. So Jane reaches out to Elizabeth. And
oh no, this is where it goes so bad.
Yeah. Elizabeth is also married. His name was R.M.L. Brigham. I know he was like
What a name.
very well off and fancy. So Jane and Elizabeth go on a holiday together in a cottage.
Elizabeth is really brave.
Yeah. Well, no one knows, what Jane's up to.
I know, but people think she's a sociopath already.
They're in a cottage, like on a beach in Catamet, Massachusetts. Not really sure how to pronounce that. So this cottage is owned by the Davis family, and we are going to get back to the Davis family. Right now, we're on Jane and Elizabeth. Of course, Elizabeth starts feeling unwell. And Jane's like, oh, you're not feeling well. Here's some mineral water.
It's just the water you've been drinking anyway, but here's some more.
Yeah. But this time she was using strychnine on her sister. And Elizabeth does eventually die. Let's see.
While they're on vacation?
Yeah. While they're at this cottage on the beach, life's great, but really Elizabeth is dying. And Jane claimed it to be stroke of apoplexy, which is cerebral hemorrhage. And so, like I said, Elizabeth was always nice to her sister. And in Elizabeth's will, she actually left Jane her gold watch. So that was nice. But Jane wanted more. Now Jane wanted her husband.
Dun, dun, dun. I have a question. Did Jane do anything weird with Elizabeth when she died? Or was this just like I
don't know.
You die and
I think it's safe to assume she got some sort of pleasure from every person she killed.
Oh,
so
God,
it's just
so
not
weird
mentioned every single time. Okay, this is where my notes got a little muddy because the book I was reading and the podcast I was listening to were kind of all over the place. Elizabeth dies. Jane moves on. She starts living with another couple, these landlords. I don't think she kills them. I don't remember for sure.
She lives with a lot of couples.
Yeah.
Is she offering nursing services and housekeeping services, or is it just
That could probably be part of it. She worked for room and board. So yeah, maybe it was people. It was the other couple, they were in their 70s. So they were might be good to have a nurse living with us. I don't know.
Touche.
Little did they know.
No, she's the world's greatest nurse. Stop. Little do they know nothing.
So she is living with this couple. Their last name is the Beatles. So it's the Beatles household. An old friend, Myra Connors, who was a dining matron at Cambridge, falls ill with peritonitis, and she's having severe pain. So she seeks out her old friend, Jolly Jane, so she can have a nurse by her side to take care of her.
I bet she takes such good care of her.
Yeah, because
Jane's the best.
She's one of the most successful and reputable private nurses at this point.
How?
I don't know. People haven't been following her track record very well. Where are all these people dying that you've been taking care of?
When do newspapers become a thing? When do people start reading newspapers?
Dolan, I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
Dolan, answer our questions.
What's a newspaper?
What's that? I know people don't read those.
You wanted to get into journalism?
What's a newspaper?
Oh, gosh. So she's taking care of Myra, kind of. Of course, Myra ends up dying in Jane's care. Jane decides she wants Myra's job, but she can't get Myra's job because there were certain administrative duties that Jane wasn't qualified for, so that just pissed Jane off.
Well, if I can't have her job, then I guess I just have to kill her.
Exactly. She works for a lot of room and board because as soon as Jane makes money, she spends it. And she gets behind on payments. So now we are going to return to the cottage that she was staying in with Elizabeth. So that was owned by the Davis family. And apparently Alden Davis, also an old friend of hers, Maddie Davis, his sister, owned the cottage and wanted to collect the debt that Jane didn't pay for staying in the cottage. And I guess it was $500, which is a lot at the time. I'm not sure how much.
$500 in 1880 whatever to stay in a cottage with this
on the beach.
Cottage made of gold. That seems like a lot to. The cottage on the beach. I'd expect $500 a night for that for Airbnb these days.
Yeah, but Maddie means business. She wants to go collect this debt from Jane. But Jane, of course, makes Maddie another victim with strychnine and morphine and all that good stuff. So Maddie is out of the picture. This is a random note.
Poor Maddie. She just wanted her money.
I know. She just wanted to make things right. I guess Jane altered Maddie's urine samples like before Maddie died to make the doctors believe that she was suffering from a diabetic coma. I don't know.
Okay, she's doing a lot of work right now.
It's something with the amount of sugar in your urine, I think. Don't know for sure, but not a professional. And so this was actually happening in the Beatles' household. She was able to take her time killing Maddie, basically, because Maddie fell ill and just kind of took her time. And eventually, Maddie died.
Well, and I would imagine nobody's like coming looking for Maddie because it probably takes, I don't know, days to get to wherever you're going. And then people assume you'll be gone for a while and then you'll just pop back up.
Who knows? Let's see here. So she kills Maddie, and that's like the beginning of tearing this family apart, basically. So there's Alden Davis, and Alden Davis has 2 daughters. And, they're concerned about Maddie. Somehow Jane gets involved with this family and like taking care of the family now. Don't know all the filler. But
it's just because she's a nurse.
Yeah. She's just hopping around and...
She's hopping around. Jolly Jane's hopping around.
One of the daughters, Genevieve, she kills and says it's a heart disease. So now Alden Davis. Okay, Maddie was Alden's wife, not sister. Again.
Important note. Yeah. Sort of.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. Alden, he buries his wife, then he buries his daughter. Then she kills Alden and says it was a cerebral hemorrhage. So now Minnie Davis is the only daughter left.
I'm sure Minnie is like, get me out of here. Yeah. Something is not right.
And for some reason, Jane is still just like hanging around this family and everyone's like okay with it. Like, who is this person?
Like, everybody's dying and the only new thing here is you. But
yeah. Minnie eventually falls ill. Go figure. Doctors are stumped as to what's wrong with her. They think, maybe she's just ill from exhaustion. She just lost her mom, dad, and sister. I guess Minnie Davis's father-in-law is a doctor, though, who eventually does become suspicious about Minnie acting weird whenever Jane is around, and he actually saw Jane inject Minnie with something. So Minnie dies. This Dr. Paul Gibbs is suspicious. So finally, we're doing some autopsies on these people to figure out what the heck is going on.
Jane is slipping.
She like
so ballsy, so bold to just inject people in front of the doctor, the good doctor, the actual doctor.
She just literally tore this family apart one by one, and is thinking she's going to get away with it. They begin to do autopsies. And she flees to return to Elizabeth's poor husband, Jane's brother-in-law.
She's like, man, it's probably been 5 minutes. Enough time has passed. I killed this family, so he'll take me in.
She's still trying, but he doesn't want anything to do with her. She goes back to her compulsive lying, and she threatens to start rumors that she's like pregnant with his baby if he doesn't want to keep her around. And
so she's saying like she'll just make it up and tell everybody that. Yeah, I was gonna say like,
but he's not falling for that. He still wants her gone.
Like, don't you think you would just be exhausted if you were Jane?
Yeah, she's doing a lot.
Doesn't stop.
I don't remember if she killed him or not. I think she poisoned him, but I don't think he actually died.
Yeah. Of course she did.
Yeah, she tried, but she did not succeed because she was eventually arrested. Finally. So apparently in the autopsies, they claimed that they found arsenic. However, Jane never used arsenic to kill anyone. So at this point, it's kind of like hearsay. The prosecutors are trying to make a case against her. So they do eventually do another autopsy where they do find morphine and atropine in the systems of the victims. And again, those things go easily unnoticed in toxicology reports.
It's kind of impressive that they were able to, discover that at this point in time.
Jane She didn't plead guilty, though, until a pharmacist came forward about how much morphine Jane was purchasing. So
Snitches get stitches.
But thank goodness someone came forward.
Yes,
You know,
100%.
people are starting to come forward. So, yeah, she was pleading not guilty up until this point. But she's going through trial. Let's see, 1902 in Barnstable County Courthouse. She is found morally insane.
Morally?
Morally
Insane.
insane. That's quoted. I don't know. So I guess they
I'm
were
going to
just...
need definitions next time, Ashley. I have a lot of questions.
Next time, Dolan, look it up.
Words are hard.
Words.
I know. I'm like, don't ask Dolan.
She's talking to therapists and psychologists and stuff. Maybe they're trying to figure out, why you did this.
Do you think maybe it means like you just didn't know right from wrong? Like you were so insane you couldn't possibly tell the difference between what was morally correct?
Well, it's saying I actually have it.
Hey,
I have it.
Coming through.
I
thought you had
lost it. Okay. So it's introduced by Picard, whoever that is, to describe a madness consisting in a morbid perversion of natural feelings, affections, inclinations, temper, habits, moral dispositions, and natural impulses without any remarkable disorder or defect of the interest or knowing and reasoning faculties.
That's her to a T, man.
It is her.
Yeah.
So fair enough. They were right on that diagnosis.
They sure were. And in 1902, 45-year-old Jolly Jane was found not guilty because of insanity.
Oh.
Because of the insanity.
Okay, like I'm going to go ahead and say she knew what she was doing. No. I mean, yeah. That definition does describe her, but I'm going to go ahead and say like she definitely knew right from wrong.
Yes, and she is transferred to the Taunton Insane Asylum, where she does confess to the defense team of 31 murders, but there's most likely well over 100.
Jeez.
Would you guys rather go to jail or go to an insane asylum?
Jail. I feel like I could relate to a lot of people there.
What? What does that mean?
Just they're not insane, and you could.
I mean, some of them probably are.
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, a lot
just-
of them probably.
I don't even know what are insane asylums like now, though. I mean, they can't
It
be
doesn't
like
matter.
they were way back in the day. We can go
Maybe
down
they
a whole
are.
rabbit hole here.
I know, but I'm just saying, like right off the top of your head, like I would say jail. I'm not going to an insane asylum.
Yeah.
Don't drug me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't shock me.
And if you
Don't experiment
plead that
on
you're
me.
not crazy, they're going to think you are crazy. So our friend Jolly Jane didn't feel any regret. And
That's because she was getting off on it.
yeah. She was
living the life. She was loving everything she was doing.
while she was, I thought this was kind of interesting, while she was in the insane asylum, her mental health, of course, starts to fade. She is afraid to eat. She goes from 200 pounds to 80 pounds.
Oh, that's tiny.
Yeah, because she is afraid that the staff is trying to poison her.
Oh.
Duh.
Oh, why are you so paranoid, Jane?
Yeah.
You don't want to, you just don't want that karma to come up on you?
Yeah, taste your own medicine.
Oh, I couldn't function if I dropped to 80 pounds. I don't think anybody could. But
I'm pretty sure I was like 80 pounds in like 4th grade or something.
I think that may have also been the last time I was 80 pounds.
August 17th, 1938, Jane Toppin dies at age 84.
Oh, she lived a long time. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, her early 30s, maybe even late 20s. She starts experimenting with people, starts killing people in her 30s. She makes it to 84. I don't know how old she was when she was arrested and all that stuff.
I think like you said, like 45 or something maybe.
that sounds right.
Near that age.
You had her birth date?
I have her suspected birth year is, they say she's born around 1857.
Yeah.
And it was 1902 when she was caught?
And then 1938 when she died. Yeah. Super crazy. So
I'm just
yeah.
so shocked she lived so long,
yeah.
especially after her eating boycott.
And she's one of America's first female serial killers.
I mean,
Wow.
props to the women, but dang,
Yeah.
what a category to be one of the first at.
Oy. And then, so she killed so many people, but, you know, I've honestly never heard of Jane Toppin until they started, like, looking up nurses and stuff. I mean, Eileen Wuornos is, you know, probably the most prolific female serial killer. She only killed 7 people. Jane killed 31, maybe even 100.
I think maybe it's got to do with like the way people are killed, but I guess I don't understand why they call her the angel of death. Is it because she was like cuddling them and like...
There's a few nurses, though, that have been called the angel of death, too. That,
just like Dr. Death. There's multiple
I'm
Dr.
sure we'll
Death.
get to. But yeah, why do they want to call him the angel of death? Just because they bring death to people, I guess.
But sweetly, sort of. Gently.
Yes.
Not aggressively.
All right. I'm going to keep drinking this Alani seltzer.
Yeah, let me
Good
know how it
stuff.
is.
What's next?
Next week.
Oh, yeah. Hey, guys, we're going to record another episode for next week.
Oh, man.
We're going to talk about words are hard, like Dolan said. We are going to talk about Kimberly Clark Sayans, also known as Kimberly Clark Fowler. She's more recent, also from Massachusetts. So
I know, that's what I was thinking. We're staying in the Massachusetts thing. So tune in next week.
Harder.
Thank you for listening to Healthcare Horrors, brought to you by Atlas MedStaff. Just a reminder, we are not healthcare professionals. We are just fans of true crime, talking about some of history's darkest moments in healthcare. Stay tuned, stay healthy, and stay safe.